Hello again, and what is hip, and welcome back to, well, the Neo Geo. So, a year ago, back in February of 2023, I decided to delve headfirst into the world of really SNK, and more specifically Neo Geo. And, you know, I wanted to talk to you guys about what it's been like living with this system for the past year. You know, I wanted to make a video a month or two after I bought this and experienced it, but I really didn't think I had enough time with it to really give an honest opinion about the system from a SNK Neo Geo newcomer. So I decided to wait, and I pushed it off more and more and more, and then a year went by, and I said, you know what, I think I have played this enough. I think it has been a part of my life long enough to really give you guys an honest opinion from someone who really was new to the Neo Geo world, and just to give my perspective as a newcomer, although I guess I'm not quite a newcomer anymore. But yes, so let's get started. So yeah, a year ago, back in February 2023, I decided to buy this because I first experienced SNK on the SNK Classics collection on the Nintendo Wii, which was basically just a giant compilation of a bunch of SNK games. Fell in love with them, but outside of the Wii, my looking into the SNK world really kind of stopped there, outside of the occasional arcade or restaurant that happened to have an MVS cabinet. And so years went by until, you know, it was always a passing interest of mine, especially as a video game enthusiast and collector. And then one day I just decided I really wanted to experience Neo Geo games on actual Neo Geo hardware, you know, not through emulation, because I'm a big fan of playing games on original hardware, and emulation of course and other means, but I really love having the original hardware when I can. And so I was lucky enough to find a Neo Geo CDZ for a really good deal with a couple of games. And for those of you who don't know, the Neo Geo CDZ is basically a rare variant of the Neo Geo CD. It's also better in a lot of ways. It's twice the speed with loading, which is a notorious issue for the Neo Geo CDs. And I only wanted the CDZ because, you know, obviously everybody wants the AES, which is the cartridge-based version of this, but they're just crazy expensive. I can't afford it. And so I knew right away I was going to go the CD route. But if I was going the CD route, I had to make sure that I was getting the best possible experience from the CDs, because again, loading is just horrible. This makes it significantly more tolerable, and it really is not that bad, at least from the games that I own. But anyways, now that I've lived with this for the past year, let me talk about just what it's been like. So one of the things that I heard about before I bought this was that the CDZ is notorious for overheating and all of that. I have not had any issues with that. I leave mine on a hard surface, and I play this quite a lot. And I also use a converter that converts the voltage down to the correct Japanese voltage for this system, since this is a Japanese exclusive, which is region free, by the way. And so I do that, and I haven't had any issues with this. And I mean, I'll play this for hours on end sometimes. So it's not been treated lightly, but it's been taken care of course. But the Neo Geo, this system is special in the way that it's made me feel like a kid again, in the ways that I felt like back in the early 2000s when I was playing video games and I was limited to the access that I had to video games. You know, I wasn't getting games every single day. I wasn't getting games every single month. You know, I'd get a new game every couple months or so. And this system has kind of reintroduced that into my life, you know, especially being an adult and having more expendable income. It's a lot easier to just spend money on games. But the games for this system are so hard to come by, and you know, finding them at a good price makes it even harder. I don't add new games to the collection very often, and because of that, it's made me really enjoy the games that I have so much more. I mean, these are all the games that I have to play. And another way that it's really made me feel like a kid again is that there's a lot of Neo Geo IPs and brands and games that I've never heard of before, especially with the majority of my games being in Japanese. You know, I don't know the language, I don't know these characters, and so it's all new. I'm going in completely blind, and that has been one of the most fun things about this system that I have not experienced really with any other system. Not to say that you can't experience this with any other system, this just happens to be my first. And so I want to really start with the first game that I was introduced to that really kind of changed my mind about a certain genre. And that was none other, I believe, than Samurai Spirits 3 or 4. I'm not sure which one this is. I think it's 4. But basically, I popped this in not knowing anything about Samurai Showdown, as it's known in the States, and I was completely blown away by how beautiful this game looks. The pixel art, the sprites, everything, the animations, it was crazy, especially knowing that this game came out in 1996. I mean, this was producing animations and sprites that I hadn't even seen on like the PlayStation 1. It was really phenomenal. And the loading, albeit quite present, was not really horrible, especially on the CDZ. And so I've played this game for hours, and I don't like fighting games most of the time. It's not my favorite genre. However, I really love this, and I'll pop this on from time to time still. Play a couple of matches because it's that much fun, and there's a learning curve. I'm not good by any means. I'm probably just a little better than an average button masher, but not by much. But I would never have discovered this game if it wasn't for the Neo Geo CDZ. Even if it was on the SNK Classics collection, I never played the fighting games because I knew I had no interest in them. And because finding games for the system is so hard, you take anything that you can get. This was one of those games. Or it might have even been included with the console that I had bought. You know, I very much thank this system for introducing that to me. And so because of that, I went and I bought some other Samurai Spirits games, all of which I love quite dearly, but this one definitely has my heart. And so, being an SNK system, of course the majority of the games are going to be fighting games. A lot of the cheap ones are all fighting games. I think every single game that was included in my system was a fighting game. And so, because of that, I was introduced to the King of Fighters. And again, I was aware of the King of Fighters, but I never played it because, again, I just didn't like fighting games, and that was that. So, being the only kind of game that I have for my system, I decided to pop it on, and once again, I fell in love with the King of Fighters, or Real Bout. These are some wonderful games, and in particular, I really, really, really enjoyed, I believe it was King of Fighters 97. This is a beautiful looking game, and I just had a lot of fun with it. I didn't like it as much as Samurai Spirits, but again, it's beautiful to look at, it's fun to play, and as someone who knows absolutely nothing about fighting games, you know, I don't know if this is technically good or technically bad, but just playing it at face value, it's fun, and I'm really having a good time, and this is cheap, you know, all these fighting games are dirt cheap if you can find them, around 20 bucks, under 20 bucks, you know, cheap. The only games that really start to get into the more expensive category are, well, the non-fighting games. And, you know, after playing so many fighting games, of course you're gonna get a little tired of playing them. I sure did. And so I decided to buy the first game that I had played before owning this system, and that was Baseball Stars 2. This took forever to find. It's not necessarily a rare game, and it's not super expensive either. I paid, I think, $50 for this. If you were to buy this on the MVS, the cartridge-based version, I think you're looking a couple $100, maybe even more. This is a phenomenal game, and once again, I'm not a giant sports game fan outside of, like, you know, the Mario sports and the occasional golf game. But when it comes to, like, sports that are portrayed in a realistic sense, even artistic sense, not super into. Now, this is definitely arcadey, but it's also the way it's presented looks, you know, more on the realistic side than, say, Mario. But oh my goodness, this is so much fun. I have put hours into this. The Japanese is not that much of a barrier, so that's all good. And it's just so much fun to play this on the original hardware. And there's something about playing it with the original controller too, which I have not mentioned up to this point, which is a crying shame, because this controller is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. The clicks, the way the buttons feel, and you're not having to have this giant, like, arcade stick in front of you, which also, I mean, I love arcade sticks, but sometimes it's just nice to lay down in your bed and, you know, not sit kneeling over an arcade stick. And so it adds just this whole new experience to the games that I played originally on a Wii remote on the Wii. I mean, it's a night and day difference, and there's zero lag, well, outside of what you experience through the flat screen television, and it's just a great experience. And after that, I went and found another game that I have never played before called Viewpoint. And this is a shooter, an isometric shooter that I might have been on the SNK Classic Collection, but I never played it. And so I was just dying to play something that was not, you know, fighting games. And so I was looking for things that weren't fighting games, and it's slim pickings for the most part again. But I found this for like $40, and I popped this in, and it's, you know, there's something about limiting yourself to a specific genre of game and then finally breaking free of that. And normally, I wouldn't find this type of game to be that entertaining, but once you're, like, stuck to a certain genre for so long and then you're finally introduced to something different, there's something that just raises the experience much higher. And this was such a breath of fresh air. Normally, I don't think I would really enjoy this kind of game, but because I was playing all these other games for so long, experiencing this new kind of thing on this system just made me enjoy it so much more. And it's not my favorite art style, but it is a fun shooter. And the fact that it's under $50 makes it a lot more fun too. And the CD really has just kind of showed me that collecting Neo Geo doesn't have to be super expensive either. I was also introduced to Art of Fighting. I believe this is the third one, if I'm not mistaken. And again, I got this for like $30, and it's a collector's edition, and I've played this for hours too. I absolutely adored this game, and I think this is the black sheep of the series. I could be wrong. But again, you know, I came into this system as a complete newcomer, and so there was no bias, there was no judgment or anything, literally just experiencing these games at face value, and that has been the most just pure experience in so many ways, not having to look up reviews and they said this wasn't that good, or I've seen this so many times before online, I already kind of know what to expect. I knew nothing going into any of these, and that has been the biggest treat of them all. And I don't think I would have experienced that with really any other system. And so I thank SNK and the Neo Geo CDZ for that. So living with the Neo Geo for the past year has been wonderful. It's been really, really wonderful, and it's made me, I guess, look at games in a bit of a different way than I would have before. You know, we're in a world where everything's moving so fast. We all have like a 5-10 second attention span. If it doesn't grab our attention within 5 seconds, you know, swipe left, you know, move on to the next one. And this slowed me down. It slowed me down a bit and made me realize that, you know, maybe our preconceived notions are not always right. And that is why I'm going to say that this year with the Neo Geo CD has been game-changing in a lot of ways. And I really think that you all should go out, maybe pick up a Neo Geo CD, or pick up something, you know, pick up a system where you don't know much about the games, or just, you know, find a game that you don't know anything about. Don't look up anything about it. For a system you already own, give it a try, you know? Maybe it takes 15 seconds to love that game or love that series compared to the 5-10 seconds that we usually give, you know? And because of this system, I've adopted that. I've adopted that a little bit, and so that's been really nice. But in conclusion, it's been a great year, and I'm looking forward to spending many more years with my still functioning, unoverheated Neo Geo CDZ. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a good one.